Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we have again Guy Finley, woohoo! And he's talking about this book, Relationship Magic, Waking Up Together. So welcome.
Hi, CJ.
So what prompted you to write this book?
Oh, what prompted me to write this book? CJ, this book is really nothing other than the continuation of all the work I've been doing for the last nearly 50 years.
Hmm.
Um, because in one respect, it is specific, talking about relationships and the interpersonal reactions that we have with one another and what their real purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
But all of my other books leading up to this point have always been about relationship. It's just that this one pinpoints in a more direct way how we can uh, help each other discover ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
help our partners discover themselves, and basically help all of our partnerships in the world, whether it's with family, friends, lovers, or the person who checks us out at the grocery stand, how we can all begin to become more awake, more conscious, kind human beings by being present to what relationships reveal to us about ourselves.
Hmm. So give me an example of yourself. So you have how long have you been married and did you mind me asking?
No, we got divorced yesterday.
Oh, darn. Well, maybe you learned something from that divorce. Bad.
My, my, my wife and I have been together for nearly 40 years.
Wow.
And I would add, not as a pat on my back or her own, but with God as my witness, we have never raised our voice at each other one time in those 40 years.
I can't believe that.
Exactly.
Honestly?
Yeah.
Come on. You've never raised your voice? Do you just not raise your voice, period?
Oh, no, I can raise my voice if I need to. No,
Wow.
look, from the onset, for me, I met my wife in what it was 19. She'd kill me if I don't know the actual. She'd raise her voice.
Guy, how can you
Yeah.
not remember?
I'm terrible with dates, but I believe that we met in 1980,
Hmm.
and she was, without knowing it, an aspirant on the path
Hmm.
who had a longing to know something of the divine. And it was one of those fortuitous meetings where, out of the clear blue sky, in the most unbelievable of all places to ask and have a conversation about what is celestial in nature, she just, out of the clear blue sky, didn't even know me, asked me a question. And I began to explain to her what little I knew back then. Actually, it's still just a little bit that I know, but that's okay. Uh, and we just, it was,
Okay, but
uh,
what was the question? What did she ask you?
she said to me, and this was in the middle of a very popular night spot in Beverly Hills, listening to a band, surrounded by people who were going to the bathroom and powdering their nose, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
She said, I don't know what to do with my unhappiness. She didn't know me. She said, but I've been reading the Bible recently, at least looking for some answers, but I can't seem to put anything together. That was the question she asked me.
Wow.
And out of that,
Were you just a guy standing in the restroom line, or were you
no,
like
no,
you were presenting in this
no,
Beverly Hills place?
we were sitting at a table,
Okay.
about 12 of us. It was, without getting into my background, I was born and raised in a very successful show business family.
Hmm.
My running mates when I was a teen and late teens and early 20s were the children of the Martins and the Arnezes and the Sinatras,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
Illuminati.
Right.
And so when Desi Arnaz Jr. got engaged to Linda Pearl, Desi was my best friend. And
Mm.
so Dino threw a bachelor party at a place called Mr. Chow's. in Beverly Hills, and we're sitting upstairs having a dinner, and Ricky Martin, Dean's brother, goes downstairs scouting for ladies as young men do, and found Pat and four of her friends having dinner there, and he invited them up to our room.
Wow.
Then we invited them to the club with us, and that's how it all unfolded. So a
Wow.
little bit of a strange personal story, but you can see that there was something intended in that relationship when we met.
Hmm.
Out of that, because she had the same interior wish to know what it meant to be able to care for someone, love someone without allowing some opposite to come in,
Mm-hmm.
where we were filled with blame or resentment, some kind of conflict that we see as being the other's responsibility. So, based on that and her wish to work with me and alongside me, we just became the best of friends, lovers in those days, and have spent an unbelievable amount of time together. I wouldn't change my relationship with my wife for all the money in the world. She's helped me so much.
Mm. So her question was, I don't know why I'm so unhappy.
Yeah, what's the sense of being incomplete?
Wait, she said to you, I have the sense of being incomplete.
Yeah, well, the original words were, I'm unhappy with my life,
I'm unhappy with my life. And
right?
what did you say to her when she said, I'm unhappy with my life? And then what was the question? I'm unhappy with my life. I
And
don't,
what should I do?
and what should I do? And what did you say?
I said, I'm so happy for you.
Hmm.
I call it divine discontent, CJ.
Hmm.
If the world had what you and I need as beings, as souls, nascent souls, then we would have all found by now some respite from this constant sense of missing out.
Hmm.
I mean, most of us, I know I was blessed in my life, have been awarded, given things, and in my musical career, which I'm not going to get into, I was very successful.
Hmm.
Before I quit the music business at the age of 28 or 29 to start traveling around the world, looking for men or women who could explain to me my own sense of being unhappy, incomplete. Before that happened, how could have I had more?
Hmm.
I mean, literally, I was blessed amongst men, amongst women, but I had something that nagged at me, as do all men and women who, at some point in their spiritual development, begin to realize, I can have the most perfect circumstances in the world, and by God, I still can feel like something's missing.
Hmm.
And when it comes to our relationships with others, this is a very telling point because we really don't start to blame or otherwise outsource our suffering as being the cause by someone else until we've spent the moment, those times at what I call stage one,
Hmm.
which is, woo-hoo, uh, you bring out the best in me, and it can't get any better than this
Hmm.
because everything you're introducing me to in myself, about myself, God, I didn't know I had that in me.
Hmm.
I didn't know I could want to fall asleep with the phone attached to my ear at 4 in the morning, listening to your voice. That was beyond me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So those initial relationships are so spontaneous and positive in their nature that it's like a love potion. I
Mm.
can't see you enough. I can't touch you enough. I can't hear you enough. And nothing that you do is a problem.
Hmm.
And that's the best of me, stage one.
I love how you're describing it stage one.
Well, it is stage one because stage two is you bring out the rest of me.
Okay. It's the puppy love and then the rest of me. The real me comes out.
Not the real me, but a me, a part of my nature, of my consciousness, I would never know
Hmm.
if I weren't with you.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's the importance of the relationship.
Hmm. So what was so you've been together 40 years. What are the aspects of your consciousness that you would have never known if you hadn't met your wife?
what a selfish, inconsiderate caveman I was.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I would have never known. I would have never known that everything about my life circled just around me.
Hmm.
And keep in mind that I met her after already more than what? I met her at 30 years old. My spiritual work began at 12. So I
Hmm.
was already 18 years into my spiritual work and didn't have a clue about these aspects of my own consciousness.
Hmm.
Not a, because like everyone else,
Yeah, so you've been on a path for a while and still didn't discover those aspects. That's
because there,
interesting. Wow.
it is because there's you see there's something built, and this is part of what my book reveals. Without judgment, there's something in us that remains concealed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
until it's revealed, it acts for us.
Hmm.
So that, an example, I remember my mom and dad. I wasn't exactly the best boy in the world. I kind of out there, as you can tell.
No, no, I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Okay, yes.
My bloodstream was filled with arrogance and pride.
Okay.
And, but I'd still, in some instances, come home after being missing in action. And they would get really mad at me,
Mm.
really negative. And even back then, I remember thinking to myself, I don't understand the correlation. How can you say that you care for me and yet you want to crush me?
Mm.
I don't, because I couldn't put it in words back then. I was still too young.
Mm.
But I knew that there was a real conflict, a real disconnect between the idea that I love you so much, I want to punish you. And love doesn't punish, CJ. Love never punishes. Love never separates. Love never blames. We
Mm.
know this if we get quiet enough. We understand that love's action is not to produce a separation between myself and the one I love. It is to unite me with the one I love through an understanding of the love that holds us together.
Mm-hmm.
So in this instance, I questioned that. And of course, my work, this new book, is the development of all this interior contemplation and revelation produced through my relationships so that we can begin to understand, well, why would I want to hurt somebody if I actually knew I was hurting them?
Right. So it came from your when you're a teenager. You're saying that what you learned from your wife was you said that you learned, well, in your words, that you're
Yeah,
a selfish caveman.
selfish, inconsiderate,
Caveman.
arrogant caveman.
Right. And then so through
But
your relationship with her, that's how you learned, like, oh, well, she just cares about me. So when I'm out and don't tell her when I'm coming
no,
home.
no,
No?
no,
What
no.
happened?
Look, I'm trying to tie together this idea that my mother and father would never act towards me in an unloving way unless they believed that the unloving manifestation was actually an aspect of love.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so that that nature is able to convince us as it's acting through us, an unconscious level of self, that because it says it loves, it actually knows what love is. When the actual evidence of the moment is, if I'm trying to hurt somebody, make them sorry for being who and what they are, then that nature is not love, regardless what it calls itself. Now, to be fair, it is a level of love. If anybody's ever read any of Scripture, East or West,
Mm-hmm.
all true religion, spiritual paths explain to us that there's like at least 6 or 8 different levels of love, different aspects, mansions, if you will, of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and that love expresses itself in that way. Because you can't say that that animals don't love. They do. You can't say we don't love animals. We do. But there's the love of the animal for the sense of identity it gives me. And then there's the love of the animal for the realization of something in my own character that I don't know without that animal. If I
Mm-hmm.
could just go on for a minute. when we see something beautiful, like I'm looking out the window and several of the girls just walked by. I've been putting Instagrams up using my relationship with the deer that I've basically hand raised for 5 generations,
Oh, sweet.
the lessons that I learned from them.
Hmm.
How do you learn a lesson from a deer?
Hmm.
The answer is the same way we learn a lesson through any relationship, through revelation. What's the revelation that a deer gives to Guy or any other creature or partner in this life? They show me something about myself that without being in their presence, I don't know about myself.
Hmm.
If I go out the door because suddenly I'm excited and I want to see him, that usually means I'm already identified with wanting to be around them. And anxiety of a sort, even though it's well intended, takes me out the door. Well, what do you think goes on when I walk out the door and there's 7 or 8 of the girls sitting there waiting for their deer cob or their apple? How do you think they respond to my manifestation when I'm anxious?
Hmm. Not well.
They scatter like the leaves in the wind
Hmm.
because they can feel me, but I couldn't feel me.
Hmm.
So they show me something about my nature that when I'm not mindful is manifesting itself as me.
Hmm.
But it can't be me. It's a level, but it can't be me because me wouldn't go out and scatter the ones that I love.
Hmm.
So there's an unconscious nature that on one hand is uplifted, fulfilled, literally completed in a way when it looks out and sees something beautiful. The snow that's graced the boughs of the trees, that powder that's everywhere and makes everything glisten when the sun comes out. I don't know about a glistening heart. I don't know about the tenderness of the sun that touches the snow and makes it fall for a second time. That's not conscious to me. But when I see it, the revelation through that relationship awakens in me that sensitivity, awakens in me characters in my consciousness I am unaware of otherwise. So you
Hmm.
get this picture.
I do. I just get, yeah, I get it.
All right, now let's look at the same thing and watch the other shoe drop. What happens when I'm on the freeway and somebody decides to cut me off or tailgate me? What happens if my wife is negative? We all get negative.
Hmm.
And I can see her looking at me, not expressing it because she's working on herself to have the same revelation I'm describing. And I can feel her negativity. What happens when I feel someone blaming me? I want to blame them for my negativity.
Hmm.
They are not creating the negativity. They are making me aware of a predisposed quality in my own consciousness that without being around them, I would never know is limiting me and that relationship in the moment.
Hmm.
Because if they're negative and I get negative, we have what's called a cycle of negativity,
Hmm.
a pattern of pain where each blames the other for a pain that neither one knows they're in and don't know how to use unless they're aware of these principles we're talking about. Sorry to go on for so long, but I wanted to get that idea. It's not just through the best of me that you complete me, it's me accepting the rest of me that you reveal that completes me because it releases me from unconscious contradictions in my own consciousness.
Yeah, no, I was just in Hawaii for 2 weeks, and I was on a meditation retreat for during that whole time with I think probably 22 other people. And we lived together. It's not one of those meditation retreats where you all drive in and you all drive out. You all live together. You're sharing space together. So all of a sudden it's like being in a shared dorm and you actually have roommates. And as I was reading this book, we were talking about relationship magic, waking up together. I was thinking about that because during the the 2 weeks there would be there was a group of people who liked everything to be beautiful, and their definition of beauty was having all the shoes lined up in the meditation center. There were like rows of shoes that were beautifully stacked together.
Been there, done that.
And then they were underneath the bench. And then we were told, please put your shoes underneath the bench. Do not put the shoes anywhere else because it's in the way, for good reason, right? There were good reasons why we shouldn't. And I watch these shoes and I watch my own reaction where it's like, really? I looked at the shoes and I kind of rolled my eyes like, really? And then I thought, okay, I'm getting a little bit tweaked about these shoes. And why? Why am I getting tweaked about these shoes? If their definition of beauty, what makes them safe, what makes them feel secure, what makes them feel is a nice, safe retreat center requires these shoes all to be lined up in rows and columns that are equally spaced,
I can
then
tell, I can tell you haven't quite let go of this.
no, I mean, no. I was like, no, I actually have. I was like, okay. So the first time I noticed that people, after this announcement, and we came back to these rows and columns of shoes, and people were just like throwing their shoes in reckless abandon, almost like giving the person the finger for coming up with this idea. So I was like, that's interesting. People are throwing their shoes. And in fact, I looked and I thought, well, this is their thing, like this is the thing that's going to make them feel safe at this retreat center. So I put my shoes where I could find them, which was the problem because when you have rows of sandals, they all look the same.
Yeah, I know.
But it was interesting. There it was that little thing, and I just saw everyone's reaction to structure and process and how we all work in a group and what is safe and beautiful and what is irritating and controlling. I just saw this whole thing play
Yeah.
out in these shoes. But I thought, well, that's on me. Like, why can't you just accept that someone needs these shoes to be this way to feel like a sense of beauty and calm and peace? Like that's what they need. So I just put my shoes. After a while, I was like, I thought about throwing my shoes off on the side like other people had. But I thought, no, like this is what they need. So just put your shoes where people have asked. And if everyone just does their own thing, then there's complete disorder in life. So just
Well, look,
do this.
there's, first of all, that what a wonderful example and illustration of what we're talking about, but we can even go a little bit deeper. So here's this person, whoever is in charge,
Hmm.
and they're asking for a specific, basically a ritual.
Hmm.
Because if you've ever been in the East, it's not unlike it. You don't walk into a temple, a mosque, you don't walk into anybody's home that they've asked you to take off their shoes, that there isn't a place for them, and you do it. And that's part of the ritual. And by the way, do you know the real reason for the ritual of taking off the shoes?
No, I only think not dragging dirt inside the house.
No, it's not that. That became it. Just a little sidebar. I don't know why I'm
Yeah.
going here. But in the Old Testament, when Moses went up the hill, the mountain, what was the first thing that the burning bush told him to do?
Take off your
Take off,
shoes.
take off your shoes.
What?
Yeah. And because in the old language, in the old teachings, which is the basis of all the teachings, shoes represents one's personality.
Oh.
And so you take off the mask of oneself so that you can have a more direct relationship with the divine. Right.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so this is a beautiful idea and we can get it. But now I'm in a place where a person has taken this idea and not only turned it into a ritual, but has become identified with the ritual, which is actually a form of personality.
Hmm.
So here you
Yeah,
have,
that's true.
right? So here you have someone who believes you're going to escape your identity by getting you to behave according to what they're identified with.
Hmm.
And that's the inherent problem with all forms of ritual, puja, whatever a person does, is that we take the ritual for being the thing.
Hmm.
So when we can begin to understand the relationship here, we can start to understand, you know what? I get it. This person, as well intended as they are, is actually asleep to the fact that they're going to get negative or make other people negative with their request. But understanding that I can go ahead and acquiesce, no sweat off my brow. I'll do what's asked, but I'll do it understanding what's asked instead of doing it for fear of being an outcast or blamed for being someone as a rebellious person.
Yeah.
Then everything, to the point again of my book, then every relationship has a deeper interior meaning that serves the mind awake to what that relationship is revealing to them in that moment. Then it becomes nothing but win, 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 because there's no pattern produced through this incessant resistance. You said it yourself. I felt it myself. Well, you want me to line my shoes up here? Take my shoe, and you want to just put it anywhere because your resistance to anything challenging what you assume is orderly is causing me to resist your order. And
Right.
that resistance trying to create order, and that's called chaos.
Right.
And if no one's aware of that, chaos rules the day, each other blaming the other for their inconsiderate stupidity.
Right.
That's the world we're in, CJ.
Yeah. Yeah. All done through those shoes. But it's
Yeah.
really true. No, it really was, because there is, when you're living in community like that, whether it's our society in general, right? Whether you say there need to be more structures on immigration, or you say, why? There's people in hand. There's this tension always in community about how much structure and process we need in order to create sanity, and what sanity means is different for different people.
There, you just nailed it. You nailed the essential problem. I want to tie it back to the book, but
Yeah.
we are not the creators of sanity, for God's sake. We're the progenitors of insanity, calling itself sanity, calling itself order. We didn't create order, sweet mother of pearl, especially in Hawaii. I live in the mountains in southern Oregon. Order is constant. It is being born, it is dying, it is taking place incessantly. We did not create, we're not the creators of love. And if we begin to understand that we are, as human beings, endowed with the capacity to be in conscious relationship with that order, in conscious relationship with that revelation that never stops perfecting what it manifests, then we have a chance to give up the insanity, not the wish for order. We live in a world where, by God, if we didn't have laws which are intended, laws substitute conscious morality. That's what laws represent, the absence of morality, the absence of consciousness, of conscience. So, we have to have those, because the way we are, we're going to throw shoes. We're going to cut somebody off to get even for them cutting us off. We're going to interrupt our friends and family when their opinion challenges our own. So there's no relationship. There's conflict that seems to be between two competing ideals. When the conflict isn't between the ideals, the conflict is between two people, each of whom are identified with an ideal that gives them whatever sense of worth they derive from being set against someone else. A pretty important distinction.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, in that example, I can say for myself that I'm identified with no one's going to tell me what to do.
There you go.
That's my identity, right? So if someone's like, put your shoes there, it just kind of, it's against mine. I'm like, you're telling me what to do? I'm going to throw my shoes in reckless abandon, right?
Yeah.
But then if you can go, no, that's not really happening. That's you, like you said, going into what is happening is what's revealing from the shoe things is something that I was concealed
Yes.
is what you said,
Yes.
right? So what was
A
concealed to me,
limitation, a definite limitation.
yeah, concealed to me was like, you don't have to be the person, like they're not trying to get rid of your freedom or take control over you. They're just trying to create beauty. And that's all they're trying to do. And peace. And that's what they need in order. And even though that may be their own ego speaking, who cares? Does it really matter that much? How hard is it to put your shoes together in a pair and put them in an orderly row and column? Not that hard. Just go shut up, do it. Which is what I did.
That's it.
Yep.
So now, bringing all this together,
Yes.
relationships help us understand through the revelations we receive by being with others or any system, where it is that within us there's something that seems to be intelligent, seems to be loving and caring, mindful, but that is instantaneously turned into its opposite by any condition that challenges it.
Mm-hmm.
So the condition isn't the source of the conflict. The source of the conflict is a false identity that I take with me into that moment that I don't know I have until, by the grace of God, the moment reveals it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Then the concealed is revealed, and what is revealed can be released if I remain aware of it long enough to understand, I thought this was me all along. This is who I think I am, but this is not who I am. It's an attribute, a character, a quality, not to be judged, but that I can see no longer serves any purpose in my life.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, all of us have this crazy idea, and I'm never, how do I say this? I would never say, let another human being abuse you under any circumstances. But we all have this idea that unless people speak to us in certain tones, give us the respect that we feel we're due, they're in trouble.
Right.
I say that real intelligence can't be insulted. And if we understand that the only thing can be insulted is an image of ourselves, and no matter how well-founded that image may be, meaning maybe growing up I was denigrated by my friends and family. I never got respect at work, and so I vowed I was going to make $1 million, become someone who would never be talked to again like that, no matter what. And then I make that money, I become someone, authority, whatever it is, but I'm still carrying around the seed of that early resentment. And I don't know that seed is in this unconscious nature until something sets it off.
Right.
And if I don't recognize it's been set off as opposed to something put it in me, then I'm going to go on and protect it again. And to the point, we would never protect something in ourselves that limits our capacity to be responsive, kind, and considerate. So, if you don't mind, do you know the passage from the New Testament? Christ said, love thine enemies.
Yeah, but tell me.
Most of us with Western familiarity of religious tenets, what love thine enemies? What are you talking about? That's what Christ was talking about. Learn to welcome those moments, people, problems that come to you that seem to be an adversary.
Mm-hmm.
They're not an adversary. They are an invitation sent by the moment, divine in nature, to show you something that you need to be delivered from in your own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And if you accept the revelation, the acceptance is the beginning of the dismissal of the former identification with that part of yourself. And you actually exit that moment of relationship, a different order of human being, because your consciousness has been changed.
Okay, so I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed since I've been back from Hawaii.
Yeah.
When you go through meditation, everything kind of slows down and things are quiet. And I'm going back, reintegrating to the world where people are talking at you in 1,000 miles per minute. And then I'm also realizing there are people in my life that suck energy out of me. I mean, I can literally feel it. I'm coming back, I'm fully energized from this retreat, and it's almost like the words, each of the words are like, it's just this kind of sucking sound. And so if I follow your model correctly, I'd say, okay, what has been revealed to me that has been being concealed before is I have a huge impatience, actually, a huge impatience for people who cannot concretely deliver the words that they need to deliver. And really, that has been my problem all along, my whole life. So I've actually been criticized for this early in my career at in corporate America, to the point
Wow.
that I had to correct that. So I don't have that anymore. But when I'm with people like that, I have a huge amount of impatience. So what to me was revealed is a certain kind of wounding, right, that I still have
Right.
from people being criticizing me for not being able to concretely package an idea and deliver it. And so when I see that, it's also like I just want to. I feel like a repulsion from it when I've been back. So that's I think that's how my understanding. Or so that's what's revealed to me that was concealed is my impatience and maybe a wound that happened because of something that happened in my past. And then the energy thing I also notice is that I'm very sensitive to energy now. So I think what's revealed to me is that like words are energy, and that's kind of I don't know. It feels like an attack actually sometimes.
It's not so much the words, because we're not going to ever, how do I say this to you? Love never justifies negativity.
Hmm.
Love understands the reason for it.
Hmm.
Very different. In this instance, I too have been, uh, you can use the word blessed/cursed with impatience.
Hmm.
A lot of it has to do with image of oneself.
Hmm.
You know, I look, come on, get with it, all right? I'm
Right.
already ahead of you. Finish your sentence so I can talk.
Right. I feel you.
Yeah,
But it is
but
so arrogant, isn't it? It's
well,
super
yes,
arrogant.
yes, exactly. Impatience passes itself off as strength when
Hmm.
it's really an arrogance that is weakness embodied.
Hmm.
But what we can do and understand from this, which is critical again to what we're talking about, CJ, is that I find out I'm impatient. So I say, you know what, God, especially if I have a career, you know, Guy, you just have to zip of the lippa. You got to shut up and not say what you can't wait to say. And we can condition ourselves to push down that arrogant nature,
Hmm.
but it doesn't change the reaction. And more importantly, it doesn't use the reaction, which is the revelation to the conversation, doesn't change the nature.
Hmm.
We want to change the nature. We want to be able to use the moment of the appearance of that impatience, frustration, irritation, judgment, to be able to see in that moment, by this moment, I am being given an opportunity to see in myself a limitation. I thought my impatience was, in fact, a credit, but now I see it's the source of conflict.
Hmm.
And as long as I have that limitation and it goes with me everywhere I go, I'll never get past this fundamental point. And people, you might want to write this down if you're listening to us. Resistance cannot learn. It is impossible because resistance is the summary act of a consciousness rejecting revelation.
Hmm.
That's what resistance is. And as long as I live from a nature that resists and then rejects the sudden awareness of itself, it is protecting itself at the cost of me being perfected by a moment that otherwise could do so. So we enter into this beautiful idea where we can start realizing, all right, you ready? This is important. Do you know the real meaning of the word patience?
No.
Old meaning of it? Take a nice deep breath, everybody, because it's exactly what we've been talking about. It means to suffer myself.
To suffer myself?
Yeah,
Hmm. Hmm.
that's the meaning of patience.
Hmm.
That's how we change by using the moments where we have no patience for what is being revealed to us about ourselves and want to jump down the throat of the other person for the pain we're in,
Hmm.
and instead become consciously aware of that nature that always has that pain and always will until what is concealed is revealed. And if we do that, if we learn what it means to love our neighbor as ourselves, to understand this action, then everything becomes the ground of something that is groundbreaking, literally breaking up these old seeds, this hardened nature that goes with us everywhere, finding fault with everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Then we begin to be free. For one thing, I'm no longer afraid. I'm not afraid of what somebody has to say. I'm not afraid of what the moment may seem to present. I'm not resisting it. Why? Because if that reaction comes up in me, it's telling me, Guy, there's something still underground, unrealized. Let's let it flower. Let's bring it into this living light of this moment and allow that light to begin the process it's intended to do, which is dissolve this dark, unconscious part of myself.
Okay, so you're an impatient person. You have the person where you want to finish your sentences. And instead of what I did when I went to Starbucks, where she explained the truck and why they didn't have the Gouda bacon sandwiches, and it took so long, and it was for 5 minutes. And I listened, and I was almost shell shocked. I think I ran out of the Starbucks store because I couldn't take it anymore.
CJ.
Honestly, like I just got back from meditation, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I ran. So what would have been what? So do you view these things as, okay, here's my teacher coming to teach me about patience?
Yes.
So, and is it just the act of putting yourself in that situation over and over again until you inure yourself or can be loving even in the state of that?
No, 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 no. Not putting yourself in that place to come out a perceived winner.
Mm-hmm.
Agreeing to see that life never stops, that love never stops, putting us in that place, so that in that place we can see that love has been limited by a nature that believes it's loving. Look, what's more perfect than what you happened to you? Here I come out of whatever it was, 2 weeks
Yeah.
of deep meditation.
And by the way, it's about love. This retreat.
Exactly.
That's the irony.
That's the point. And boom, what a shock. Sweet God. That means that whatever it was that I was steeped in and of itself wasn't bad, it was good. But part of its goodness is that now I see that goodness that I can feel and take part in is only part of a greater goodness that just showed me that's not the end of goodness. That's not the fulfillment of it. The fulfillment is in realizing that goodness has further to go, that love has deeper levels to it, and that I have yet to enter into that. And thank you for showing that to me. Because if that didn't happen, I'd go on blaming that person until I remembered, wait, that's not what a loving person does. And then, then I'm a terrible person. 2 weeks wasted in meditation. What am I going to do? All that's nonsense. The revelation is complete. If we'll accept it, the invitation is inherent to be patient with what we're given to see. In our patience, we possess our soul.
So what did that patience look like for you as you move from being an impatient person to a patient person?
It's just sitting and agreeing not to express the negativity and not to repress it.
Okay.
Not to express or repress. That's what meditation is. Meditation is a living relationship with life.
Okay, so if I'm this person. Oh, Guy. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so in your head you're like, wow, CJ is just nonstop blathering on about these shoes. Gosh, I want to talk about my book, and she's talking about these stupid shoes. Okay, so you're thinking something in your head, so you're not repressing it, but then also, so I get the not repressing it. That comes naturally. What's the other part of it?
Don't repress, don't express, watch.
Watch yourself or watch the situation?
The whole thing. No, yourself is the situation.
Okay, so it's like, wow, look at me getting so upset about the Starbucks woman. And here I was supposedly meditating about love.
Yes, CJ, but see, not in thought.
So you're saying just feel it.
Watchfulness, mindfulness. Allow the moment to reveal to you, within you, the purpose of it being what it is. And the purpose of the moment, because love is ultimately the progenitor of everything that we see and are, brings these moments to us so that we can enter into a deeper relationship with it. But we can't enter into that deeper relationship with it if we're busy blaming someone or something or ourselves for the absence of it.
Okay, so don't go in like, oh wow, here you are, like throwing
Exactly.
the Starbucks woman under the
Waste,
bus, or like,
waste
oh my gosh, meditation retreat, like here I am falling prey to this,
all
all
waste.
blah blah blah. So
All
instead of going there in thought, I just go into, wow, look
what's
at this.
present, as fully present as I can be to myself, to what I'm feeling, to my thoughts, to the sensations coursing through my body, all in the double attention, in the awareness of myself and the situation at the same time, because they are the same thing. You would, no one would walk up to a mirror, look in the mirror, and think they can change what they see by putting makeup on the mirror.
Hmm.
That's what we do when we try to change external circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
what we do when we blame the condition, is we make it up to be something we need it to be so that we're innocent in the equation.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I have an exercise, I call it stop, drop, and endure.
Okay.
Stop, drop, and endure. I'm in Starbucks. And who hasn't been there? Especially if you're waiting like for 20 minutes
Right.
for a specific thing. You lay out your order, which is usually 42 words. The person looks at you like you're speaking in a different language. They go, can you say it again? Then you're already unhappy. Look, you work here, not me. I've ordered before. See, I can run this whole thing down, can't I?
Yes. Yes.
So there they are, and I immediately feel heat. And it's not because I'm standing next to the steamer.
Mm-hmm.
Inwardly, steam is mounting. Why? Person is not meeting my expectations in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
You are failing to be who you're supposed to be, which is the continuation of the pleasure I've imagined, and you're interfering. So you're in trouble, dude. So steam starts to mount. Now, when steam starts to mount, that's resistance, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pushing the condition away. So knowing this is true, and that the inherent limitation in me discovering the truth of myself is that basically I want to avoid seeing myself, I bring myself to a complete stop. I don't do anything other than allow myself the awareness of myself as completely as I can,
Mm-hmm.
as mindful as I can be, heart, mind, and body.
Mm-hmm.
In that stop, then I am capable of watching this flood of thoughts that are coming in and trying to justify what I can see as negativity.
Mm-hmm.
What in God's name wants to justify negativity?
Mm.
Let's think about it. Oh, negativity.
Right. Okay. That's what I want to drop. I stop,
There you go. So
drop.
I'm still mindful, still stopped, watching these thoughts and feelings who have come to convince me that I am justified no matter what with this anger or resentment. Whatever I feel, I'm justified.
Mm.
That's the drop part. I
Mm.
watch it.
Mm.
Watching it means I don't identify with it.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Now, if I don't identify with these thoughts and feelings that have come as familiar friends and guides to get me out of this unwanted moment, what do you think that nature begins to do when I begin to pay attention to myself instead of what it's setting down as a course of action? What do you think that consciousness starts to do?
It naturally drops if I just don't
Oh, it
engage.
drop. It sees what you're doing and it starts to lay it on. You look, you can't let this person walk all over you. If you let this guy get away with not knowing what you want to order, it'll be like this everywhere you go for the rest of your life. No one will know what you want. I mean, it can't go too far. It begins to apply pressure. This is what stress is. What I call me, pushing against the moment I blame for the pain.
Mm.
moment I'm blaming for the pain is my own expectation of the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see this true singularity that seems to be a duality, then in that awareness that I've come to a stop and I drop, then I'm going to endure the mechanical upwelling of this negativity that belongs to a nature I've never known, continues to live in me. The observation of this negativity is the same as the awareness of that level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Now something has been brought into that level of consciousness that alone has the power to change it.
Mm.
That's what we're after. And that's with every relationship.
So stop, drop, and endure. Is that the formula?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense to me. It's
Yeah.
very similar to what I just learned in a meditation retreat, but I wasn't able to apply in real life until now. Until you
Yeah.
put it in a package in a slightly different way.
Yeah. But see, beautiful lesson, because the last part of the book says something that we all need to remember. God help us, all of us, no matter where we are along the road. We're all in training. We're all in training. I'm not here to be trained by this world, but I'm here to see that this world can let me realize something in me has been trained to react the way it does.
Mm.
I'm not a dog,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an animal. I'm a human being with the capacity and the possibility of living from a level of consciousness that understands how to use these moments that formerly have been using me.
Mm.
To understand I'm in training is to essentially get the idea, look, so's my wife, so's my husband, so are my kids. And they can't do any better than they're doing in that moment, any better than you could do at Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
But the revelation of that is the release of the judgment. The past is completely wiped out. I get it. Thank you, Starbucks. I swear to God, I have a little saying when it comes to unwanted moments with people, with situations. You might want to write it down, everybody. To inwardly learn to say, thank you. I didn't know that about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no end to what we can learn about ourselves through the partnerships that we have with life. And love creates these partnerships so that we can understand how love works and how to align ourselves with it completely, which takes us full circle. Because you asked why write a book on relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how we begin to enter into a conscious relationship with an unending love that wants to have an unending relationship with us.
Well, that is a perfect close to Guy Finley, his book, Relationship Magic, Waking Up Together. It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.